All right, as we get set up, just bear with me, guys, and we're all going to have some fun. So let's see here. Let me see. Let's view this real quick. Let's see. All right, I'm good on YouTube. Perfect. All right. All right, let me just share this real quick and then we're good. Let's see. Let's see, view on YouTube, and then we're good. Sorry, guys, bear with me. All right, as I'm just waiting for more people to come on, and we'll get started with today's talk. All right, perfect. All right, so I just sent a tweet out, and then we're good. I just want to make sure that we're good on here. All right, so I know it's been I'm on YouTube, guys, so I'm just letting you guys know. I just had to post a tweet on Twitter so that way I can share everybody what's going on. But yeah, so I just set up on Twitter and we're on Wisdom, so we're good to go. So I'm just letting you guys know now. Thank you guys for joining the discussion today. We're going to talk about a couple things. And if you guys ever want to contribute and join on to our live chat, whether that's through YouTube or through Wisdom, you guys can always just join the conversation and all that fun stuff. So I wanted to start off today's episode with, before I really get into my intro and stuff like that, the topics we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the 7 universal feelings, what they are. I think this is a very important topic because as people love to think and judge how different we are, there's a lot of feelings we all feel, typically the same things, regardless of our perspective and where we are in the world. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about life in general. We'll talk about society because I have a bone to pick with a lot of things. And obviously, Gemini Mercury Retrograde. I have the dates with me, and I have a website on the Cosmopolitan. Dang, I can't even pronounce that word right. And we talk a little bit about that and how that affects some of your signs. So I'm also available to do some live readings and all that fun stuff too. So today's going to be a lot of fun, a good chill vibe here on this Friday, Memorial Day weekend. So I hope everyone has their plans ready. So that's what we're going to talk about. I am going to record this podcast. This is going to be the 50th episode. So I just want to let you guys know. So I'm going to start my recording soon. So welcome, guys. And as more people funnel in, welcome to the podcast. And we're going to have some fun. So I'm going to start my recording in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Your Spiritual Best Friend. I am your host, Josh Sanchez. And today is a very special podcast. It is the 50th episode. Yes, I can't believe it. It's been 50 episodes already. A lot of great interviews, a lot of just special guests coming on. So with today's podcast, we're going to make it a little special. So I'm live currently on YouTube, and I'm also live on the Wisdom app. It's a great app, guys. Wisdom has been great. I've already had like 3 conversations on Wisdom already. And I'm going to take some live calls if people want to contribute and want to join the podcast and want to be on the 50th episode. You guys can always join, whether that's through Wisdom or YouTube. And we're going to have some great discussions today. I wanted to talk about and connect everyone together on this podcast. So the topics that we're going to cover, just want to make it clear with you guys. We're going to cover the 7 universal feelings. What are they? and how do we feel? How do we have moments where we feel each of these 7 emotions or feelings? I'm also going to cover Gemini Mercury Retrograde, obviously, because we're currently in Gemini season and Mercury is in retrograde and it's a Gemini Mercury retrograde. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about society and life in general because it's important. We are all human beings in this world and we all live in societies and we need to talk about it and address it. So these are the topics that we're going to talk about today. I'm also open to do live chart readings. I've done that on a couple talks in the past. But welcome, guys, to the special 50th episode. It's been a lot of work, and I could not have done this without you guys, my listeners, and everyone that has liked and rated the podcast and subscribed to it. It's been a really huge opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun. And I must say to everybody, whether you're just joining in or you have been a long life listener, thank you, because it really means a lot. My podcast, I really want people, whether you're listening via audio, watching some of the videos on YouTube, even though there's very few on YouTube, but whether you're tuning in, following on social media, my podcast, I really just want to give you guys a platform where we can sit and have honest conversations. You guys feel heard, you guys feel understood, and you're learning new information throughout the day. So that's my main job with my podcast. That's why I really like to bring a lot of guests on. So I just want to say again, thank you to everyone. It's been 50 great episodes already, and there's going to be plenty more because I have a lot of way more interviews and more people wanting to come on. So I just want to say again, thank you guys for being long life listeners, whether you're just tuning in or not. We're all a big family at the end of the day. That's why I really like to bring here on your spiritual best friend. But yeah, I just wanted to start off with that, guys, because it's important. It's been on my chest. I've been really looking forward to our conversation today, 50 episodes. So I think we can really get started with this conversation again. I know more people are tuning in on Wisdom. The number's starting to increase a little bit. If you guys want to contribute in any way, you guys want to share your story or your perspective on mental health, the 7 universal feelings, or even talk about astrology and what your live chart read, this is what today's podcast is all going to cover today. But yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and we're really going to get into all of our great conversations here. So I wanted to start our first topic today with the 7 universal feelings, because as different and as unique we all are as humans, there are 7 universal feelings that we all feel in any way throughout moments in our life, or when we're stressed, when we're not stressed. There's 7 emotions that everyone feels, regardless of what race you are, what culture you are, where your background is, where you come from. We all have these universal feelings. So some people like to debate that there's 6. Some people like to debate that there's 7. Me, I don't really care. I'm just going to drop some information, and I want to see, and as I describe each of these feelings, I want you guys to think of moments where you have felt this way. So we're going to start the first one with contempt. So this one is the least researched of the 7. But this feeling, according to PaulElkmangroup.com, it's universal emotions, bunch of psychologists, they team up, I believe, in the UK. But this is the basic notion. So what this feeling is I'm better than you and you're lesser than me. So this is most common triggered through this emotion. This is very immoral, and this is usually accompanied by anger. So anger is also another of the 6 or 7 universal feelings. So contempt contempt, my fault, guys. This is the notion of I'm better than you. So this is not really a good feeling to really have, but we all have these moments where we feel that way. I know for me in sports, oh man, sports brought out a lot of ugliness in me. So whenever I would hit a home run, I would stare at the pitcher, do a bat flip, be a little disrespectful because I'm I'm better than you in this moment because I just hit a bomb 400 feet over your head and I'm only 5'6" and you're 6 foot. I mean, that's a whole other thing, but I'm just having some fun. So that's contempt. So that usually is accompanied through anger. So that one is I always like to start with that one because it's sort of like is that part of the 7 universal feelings? Is it not? That's the one out of the others where it doesn't really get talked about the most. But obviously anger, we all know anger. I believe out of all these emotions, especially for men, I've had a couple conversations about this in the past. Anger is the one emotion that people tend to react to the most, especially for men. So if a man displays anger, people tend to relate, or not relate, but people tend to act on anger quicker than these other emotions. So anger, obviously, we'll get into that a little bit more because anger management is something that needs to happen, especially for men. Because like I know throughout my own experience, like there's been times where I've been very angry and I'm not really realizing what is happening that is making me feel this way. So instead of us taking it out on others, there's anger management courses. There's programs that are out there that can really help us understand our anger and where we are and what is causing us to be angry. Disgust. And this is a great movie. It's Inside Out. I know it's a kid's movie. It's a Pixar movie. But that was one of my favorite. I know I'm getting a little sidetracked. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm gonna connect it all together. But Inside Out was a great Pixar movie. It's a Pixar kids movie. And it talks about the universal feelings. I 10 out of 10 recommend you guys to watch that movie. It's so good. It's so good. Pretty much what it is all there's like these little feelings. They're little feeling creatures inside of our head, and they're pretty much like working together to see. Well, because it's pretty much like what goes on in our minds when we do experience an event and we are nervous or we are like going through some like the feelings that go through our head. So it's really cool. Inside Out is a really dope movie. But Disgust, she was a green character. So Disgust is like, I mean, this feeling is pretty much it's like disgust, you know? So it's like you might dislike things or like you might find things nasty, like, like this is just gross. I don't want to do this. Like, it's usually triggered by something that is like offensive, contaminate. Like, so like, it's like if you smell something that's bad, you're like, that's nasty. So it's usually triggered by something like that. And it's important for us to have disgust because especially when it comes to food, like imagine if you pull out something out of the food and it smells funky and you don't have a feeling towards it. Like, I mean, you might eat something poisonous and there you go. So there's good and bad. But like I said, common disgust triggers. Here's some common disgust triggers. So there's certain foods, obviously, rotting, injuries, anything that looks physically ugly, like anything that looks unsafe, you tend to be like, I'm disgusted by it. So this is definitely a feeling of disgust. So this is usually developed in children, adolescents. It starts early because when it comes to certain adults, like some kids, they cling to more adults. Some kids are like, disgust by some of the adults. So that's where it comes from. But it's important for us to recognize what disgust is because it doesn't have to be just words, but it can also be through facial expressions. So it's important for us to pick up on all these cues because again, these are all feelings that we all have in some shape or form. So far I talked about 3. So the fourth one, enjoyment. Enjoyment is a lot of fun. Obviously, this is when we're feeling happy. We're feeling joy. In Pixar in the movie Inside Out, Joy, she was this bright little fairy, and it showed in the movie if you have too much joy, like, you got to be able to let all your emotions mingle and blend together. You can't just be happy all the time and put on a happy face because with that you can suppress a lot of your emotions. So enjoyment is great, but it cannot be the only emotion that we display into the public. The fifth one, obviously, is fear. So obviously fear, you watch a scary movie, you get scared of or something. This is where a lot of anxiety comes in because anxiety is based on a lot of fears that we have. So depending on what you experience, like I know for me, I have a fear of bugs. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. I had a bad experience with ticks at a young age. And I always like to disclose some of my information so that way we can all relate to each other. So I had a bad experience with ticks, and this connects with fear. So I had a bus stop. There was a lot of trees around my bus stop in 4th grade. And my grandma, I don't know who was supposed to pick me up, my grandmother or mom was, but there was a miscommunication between both of them. So no one picked me up. So I got picked up. I got dropped off from the bus in like 5th grade. And I'm like, all right, like, where's my parents? There's no one there. So I wait at the bus stop for about like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, all right, these people ain't coming. Cause like if they're 15, 20 minutes late, these people ain't coming. But I sat at the bus stop. I sat on the curb, waited for like 30 minutes. After 30 minutes go by, I'm like, I have a baseball game I have to go to. So yeah. So in the process of 30 minutes, there was about like 10 ticks. And I'm sorry if you guys are listening on either YouTube and stuff and you're feeling like, ooh, you're feeling like you're starting to feel anxious a little bit. But there was about 10 ticks, whether they were on my book bag, some got on me, and I plucked them all out. So I put on my baseball uniform. I was like, yo, what the heck is on my leg? Like, because you feel like these little like legs, and they're slowly just like, because they're trying to get into your skin. And I started freaking out. So I ended up showering. I got tweezers. I had 6 on me. And then I had 3 in my book bag, which was spooky. So obviously you pluck them with tweezers, you burn them. So I did that. Luckily, none of the ticks went inside of me. But because of that experience, I have always had anxiety when I'm in an area where there's a lot of trees or tall grass. It's crazy how our mind works. You experience one thing, and this really brings that fear aspect. Like, I am terrified. That is one of my fears when it comes to ticks. I don't want to be anywhere near it. Do not put me in tall grass. I got to make sure that the grass is perfectly cut before I even think about sitting in it. So even in parks, I don't like to sit in grass. So yeah, so like, this is definitely a fear that I have based off of what I experienced as a child. But my point is, fear is another universal emotion, a universal feeling that we all experience. So as you guys are thinking and listening to how I describe each of these emotions again and these feelings, I want you guys to think of moments where you have felt this way and all that fun stuff. So I talked about fear, enjoyment, contempt, anger. So far, those are the feelings I talked about first, and disgust. So just think about moments where you guys felt this way. And if you guys want to join our conversation as a guest, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, so I know I mentioned all those feelings so far. The next one is sadness. So we have all experienced sadness many times. And in the movie Inside Out, sadness was one of those feelings where Joy was like, why are you feeling sad? Like, you don't have to be sad. Let's be happy. But sadness is important because if we allow ourselves to understand our emotions and be sad in moments, we're able then to process and let go of all of the negative feelings we feel towards whatever is making us sad. It's important that we do this early in childhood, because if we end up suppressing moments where we do feel sad, it ends up building up into a giant cloud, and then eventually it just bursts of all the emotion that we suppressed, and no one wants that. So sadness is definitely an important emotion that needs to be talked about more and expressed more. I know I mentioned earlier, because I know the number on wisdom has now nearly tripled. So welcome guys to 50th episode of Your Spiritual Best Friend. So you guys are going to be on this live podcast. So if you do join, I'll let you know that you will be recorded. But it's all fun at the end of the day, and I'll edit it so that way nothing happens. But anyway, like I mentioned earlier, anger is the one emotion I feel like, especially when it comes to men and people in general, that people tend to react the quickest to. So if someone's angry about something, we tend to listen more and react quicker than if someone was sad or crying about something. You don't always have to cry to be sad. Like, you can just sit there and be puzzled, and there's fight, flight, freeze, and some people in intense moments they freeze. So maybe the sadness or the shock is so heavy that they're not feeling anything right now. They're just frozen. So that's another thing I wanted to highlight again. Sadness does not always have to be just crying either. So it's a feeling that we all have to express and experience and just let our emotions process. And then the last one is surprise. So, surprise birthday parties, or, like something that like this feeling is more, it's more like spare the moment. Like usually like creativity is a little bit involved when it comes to this feeling. That's how I always view it. So this is how we react to unexpected sounds or movements on things. So again, this is important because people don't like to acknowledge, but the environment in which that we live in is very vital when it comes to our mental health. So if you're in an environment where it's unsafe and you're constantly on edge and you're constantly worrying about, will I be able to make it home? And that's a whole other societal problem, especially here in the United States, that needs to be addressed more. Like, you're always aware, like you're trying to be as aware as possible for sounds or movements unexpectedly, so that way that you can know what's happening, whether or not it's dangerous. So because of this surprise feeling, this is why when we are in like environments, in like public environments, that we're always trying to be aware of sudden movements or sudden noises, so that way we can react and get the heck out of here, because it's all instinct. So yeah, so like loud sounds, unexpected movements. So it's important for us to recognize these moments, recognizing surprise again. So usually our eyebrows are raised. I like this website because it has some of the like facial expressions, like when something unexpected happens and it causes shock, and that can lead to fight or flight or freeze. So it's important to recognize these feelings. So again, I just did a brief little summary because I know I've been talking for at least like 15 minutes now on the 7 universal feelings and emotions. Again, so they are anger, contempt, that's the controversy one, disgust, enjoyment, fear, sadness, and surprise. And again, 10 out of 10 recommend, if you guys want to learn more in great detail. It's a kid's movie. Inside Out is a really dope movie for you guys to really understand how the emotions, they all mingle, and how sometimes when one emotion is taking over the other emotions, it can lead to a big mess. So I 10 out of 10 recommend. But those are the universal feelings. I want you guys, again, as I'm describing it and as I transition to the next topic, think about moments where you have felt this way. You have felt anger, you have felt disgust or enjoyment, fear, sadness, or even felt a moment where it was surprise. I know I mentioned my tick story. That was crazy when it comes to fear. But yeah, I just want you guys to think about situations where that has happened to you. And if you guys want to contribute, again, you guys can just join as a guest and we can keep our conversation rolling. But those are the 7 universal feelings. And again, it's important for us because it doesn't matter where we are, how different we are as people. These 7 feelings are the feelings that we tend to feel, that everyone feels at some point through experience in their lifetime. So it's important that we all recognize these feelings so that way we can help understand each other at the end of the day. So yeah, so that was the first topic. I really wanted to highlight the 7 universal feelings first. But this next topic, I know I usually talk a lot about mental health and spirituality, but I mean, obviously we know what happened this week, like, was a travesty. What happened in the Texas school shooting. It was horrible because, again, it's important for us as a society that we need to be able to recognize and acknowledge when things happen. Because if we don't do this, we end up just pushing aside, we end up pushing it, and nothing gets addressed. And it's horrible what happened in the Texas school massacre. Again, like I said, like those 19 or 20, or I know 2 teachers, 19 young children that got their lives taken unexpectedly. It's so sad, and it's horrible to see. And I think when it comes to in the United States, I don't know where you guys are listening, but I'm in the East Coast in the United States. There's a big, deep root cause of all this, because yes, I do think we definitely need stricter gun policies, obviously. Because I don't understand why. I mean, it's just common sense. How can an 18-year-old go to the store and be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna get an AK and I'm gonna get all these like assault rifles, but they can't even buy a beer. So it just does not, it obviously that needs to change. But there's a deeper root besides just stricter gun laws. It comes down to, I know I mentioned this last week on my last talk, and shout out to the people that contributed to that, but it comes down to, again, in the United States, we what we view as success and what we expect from the people that live in the United States is it's unhuman. Like, what do I mean by that? Well, capitalism, even though apparently it's equal opportunity and all that stuff, capitalism, the main focus of capitalism is productivity, what can you do for me, and money. So, and especially in westernized culture, what do we view success as? We view success, oh, this person got a lot of money, oh, this person's very famous, this person is very productive. We view these people as successful. And what's happened is, over the course of generations and generations and generations, that foundation has been taught and instilled upon the people that live in the United States, westernized culture. And it's just built this ugly mess that we have. So there's a lack of emotional well-being. There's a lack of mental health, education. There's a lack of all that in the United States. For instance, I can give a small example. I don't know, depending on what company you work for, again, you don't have to take me word for word, but this is just a brief estimate. I know in other countries, when a child, this is just an example for me to prove my point. I know when a child is born, I believe the father in other countries, the father and the mother, I believe they can take like a couple months off, which is important for your child's development. Those first couple of years are huge. And I know in other countries, you can take a longer sabbatical leave. In the United States, I know based off of what I experienced and my own father and my uncles and my family members and friends have told me, that the most they were able to get, especially for the dad, was 5 days. That was the most they were able to get. So this is just a small example. Like, why is it that a baby is just born? You expect me to be mentally prepared to be my full productive self when my child was just born a couple days ago? Like, I'm not going to be thinking about my work. I'm just not. Like, I know for me, like, if once me and my girlfriend do decide to have kids, like if that happens, like I'm probably going to take like a month off, because it's important. Like, I want to be there for my child. I want to help my child. I want to begin like the early stages of that. So that's just a small example of not regarding for our mental health. And then we get to the schools, in the school systems, like the public school systems. Why is it that, and these are just questions I want you guys to think about, because this is the deeper rooted issue here. Why is it that in health class, we learn about the physical aspect of sex and how to use like obviously protection and all that stuff. But when it comes to the emotional side of it, how do we understand our emotions? Before we even engage in sexual activity, are we emotionally ready to have sex? Are we mentally ready to engage in sex or to have relationships? Like, none of these things are taught in schools. what's happening is our school system focuses on, again, productivity. Who has the best test scores? Because kids, they get tested based off of their math and reading and all that stuff. Social studies every couple years and science every couple years. This is just a growing problem. Like, why is it that we get tested and we're based off of results as children? And when it comes to emotional well-being, talking about our emotions, creating a platform where and this needs to start early, young, when we were children. Like, when events happen, let's talk about the events. Let's not worry about math. Let's not worry about reading real quick. Let's actually talk about how we're feeling today. My question is, why is that not implemented? An emotional / mental health, you can call it lifestyle curriculum. Why is that not implemented in our public education system? These are all important questions that we need to acknowledge and to understand, because once we're able to address that, then you will see a lot of these like just crazy, bizarre situations. Obviously, you make gun laws more stricter with that, and an implementation of a change in the education curriculum where we are acknowledging and we're more aware of the mental health resources that are available and our emotional well-being. Then you will see a lot of solutions. But the problem is, again, people that are put in position of power, regardless, Democrat, Republican, at the end of the day, whatever you view is whatever you view. But we have to acknowledge that there is a deep-rooted issue here. And we live in a society that focuses so much on making money and being productive that when it comes to the common good and humanity, it all gets put in the back burner. Because if you just say it in the air and you just have a normal conversation, like you just speak it into the air, it sounds crazy. Like, why can my 18-year-old child go to any gun store and buy an AK-47 or whatever assault rifle it is, but he can't even buy a beer yet? Like, it's just like, you say that out loud and you're just like, wow, like, like it's really just, it's crazy. Like that's why I like to do, like, in situations like this, say it out loud and then just, wow, like this is actually really outlandish how it sounds. But yeah, so it's important. And again, I really want to, if you guys that are listening, if you guys want to add to the conversation, you guys can as well, because it's important that we talk about and address problems here. Because if we don't address, similar to our feelings, like if we don't address how we're feeling and we're not processing it, we end up putting all these things, people talk about it, people bring it up, and then nothing gets done. And I know I mentioned that we live in a capitalistic society. I don't know if that's a term, but I mean, that can be my own term. I'll create it myself. That focuses on money and productivity as success. I mean, you have a lot of people, higher ups, that are making millions of dollars on the gun policies in the United States. So again, because we live in a society that views money making and productivity as being successful, now you have a bunch of higher ups that are in charge of policies, and the only reason why they're not changing the policies for the common good is because they're making millions of dollars. So again, it comes down to greed, it comes down to selfishness, and it comes down to our deep-rooted problems here in society. So people can say about all the positives about capitalism, because there is positives, but I'm here to address that part of the reason why these school shootings and all these and like racism and all of these social injustices continue to happen and no change happens is because, again, we have a lot of people that are put in positions of power that are taught a lot of negative things about people, and their main focus is just making millions of dollars at the end of the day. So it comes down to, again, you have a society focusing on making money, being productive, being taught not really to respect people, suppressing a lot of emotion when it comes to emotional work, when it comes to talking about trauma that they experience, that gets put in the back burner. I made $1 million. I'm making millions of dollars. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So if you have that mindset, that's the deep-rooted problem here that needs to get addressed. Is, again, we need to be able to understand our emotional well-being. We need to be able to understand emotional intelligence, insight. These are all terms that we must learn within ourselves. I know I mentioned a couple talks ago, we are all people, we're all cups filled with water. And through our own trauma, through our own experiences, there's holes that are poking out, and it's leaking what is inside of ourselves. And it's up to us to do the emotional work, be aware of mental health resources, become more emotionally intelligent so we can develop empathy, we can understand each other. And once we're able to do that, then we're not taking our own trauma and spilling it on the others. Because again, that's what a lot of people do here is we take our trauma, and a lot of unhealthy relationships are formed. We take our own trauma, our own experiences, and we pour it and spill it all on to the people we love. And do those people deserve to be treated like that because we didn't handle our own emotional trauma? No. So that at the end of the day, that is the deep-rooted problem here. So for all those loving and kind children, that it's just hard, man. It's horrible. And it's not even just that too. Like can't even go to the supermarket anymore. Like, I know I mentioned this last week, like, no one is born and is like, when wakes up, when the second they come out of their mother's womb, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill people. I'm gonna kill 10 people today. Or, oh, I hate a specific ethnic group. Oh, I hate poor people. Oh, I've been bullied in school, so now I'm gonna go kill children. Like, no one is born that way. It's through how we're raised, our own traumatic experiences that we have experienced, and are we acknowledging it, and are we doing the emotional work to help us grow and to help us build empathy, to help us understand people, so that way we are our own real authentic self? Are we taking those steps, or are we not working on anything? We're suppressing it. We're suppressing all of our negative feelings and just letting it build and build and build. And then eventually you blow up and explode, and it's ugly. That is the deep-rooted issue here in America and in westernized cultures today. And wherever, if you're listening, I don't know the issues in other countries, because I only live in the United States, and I know the address. I mean, I'm in grad school now. I went in the public school system. I'm just telling you what I experienced. I was not aware at all about the mental health resources that were available. I know for me, like when my grandfather did die, I did see a school psychologist, but that was not recommended from the school. My grandma reached out on her own and found someone, and he was willing to go into the school and talk to me. That's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to our education system and our views on our society, our views in America is about who makes the most money, who is the most productive, because productivity is huge. People don't like to acknowledge it. Like, if you were to see someone on the street and they're chilling, not really minding their business, or I love this when people are smoking weed. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're smoking weed, you're unproductive. Like, no, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm connecting with myself, with nature. Like, there's a lot of stigmas when it comes to mental health. And that's another part of our society. So again, it's in the United States. I only know this because I live in the United States. It's, what does our society view as successful? What does our society view that's important? And through the course of generations, Our society has always viewed whoever makes the most money, whoever is the most productive, as the most successful. And people that don't make as much money, people that, and obviously we all know, like, social injustices as well, race, there's a problem with everything again. So there's a racial problem, there's sexism, there's obviously, when it comes to like who you love, you get judged. So again, it comes down to, what does our society view as important? And for years and through generations, it's always been the same specific type of group, obviously white Caucasian men, that have viewed making money and being productive as successful, and obviously being, well, in the past white, and it's still, racism still comes in many shapes and forms today. I want to acknowledge that as well. But yeah, that specific ethnic group has created a culture and an environment in the United States that focuses on making the most money and being the most productive as being successful. So when it comes to understanding our emotional well-being, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to teaching about trauma, that gets put in the back burner. So many kids, so many people, and here's another point that I wanted to add before I get off track, because we're going to talk about Gemini being in retrograde soon too, because I want to highlight that as well. But I had a thought, and I don't want to lose this thought. Oh yeah, so it took us a global pandemic to even start to think about considering our mental health. It took us, as bad as COVID was, I will say, COVID was absolutely terrible. To all the people that lost a loved one, I'm sorry. I empathize with you. And like, obviously, like, COVID was definitely very hard. It hit hard on a lot of people, whether that's financially, all aspects. I empathize with you. It took us that. No work, staying at home for months, realizing like, hey, like, I needed, something needs to change. It took us that to even start to consider thinking about mental health and emotional well-being. That is my point. Like, it took us a global pandemic where millions of people lost their lives for us to be able to sit at home and realize, hey, I have a lot of, like, when it comes to work, I'm not really feeling work anymore. Like, I want to do this with my life. I need to do this with my life. I've always put this in the back burner. I want to do this more. Like, it took us a global pandemic for us to even consider our, as a collective. I'm not saying you individually, but as a collective. It took us a global pandemic for us to even consider our emotional well-being and our emotional health. And that is a problem. Why is that a problem? Like I mentioned earlier, we're not taught how to regulate our emotions. Our parents are just teaching us what their parents taught them. And then their parents are teaching what their parents taught them. And like, it all trickles down. It's up to us to, and everyone that is listening, it's up to us to break these generational teachings, these generational traumas that we face, and we need to be able to acknowledge them, recognize that they're problematic, and move forward. So until we do that as a collective, we're going to continue to see a lot of these situations where people have a lot of suppressed trauma and they do ugly things. And it doesn't help that we have political leaders, again, that view success as money, that have very implicit biases towards a specific gender, race, ethnic group, you name it. You can literally check the boxes. Like, are you judgmental? They'll say no, but they are, because do you really empathize with the people that are experiencing the social injustices in the world? No, you don't. You don't. Because if you did, actions would already be made. This is not the first school shooting. There's been, I believe, over 300 school shootings in the United States. Don't quote me for that, but I know, not school shootings, but there's been like public shootings since, like, I don't even know the date. I got to pull up the statistics. If I do, then I'm gonna get real. But there's been some astonishing number of public shootings in the United States, and there has been no action done to actually change the problem. And that, my friends and everyone listening, is the problem. It should only take one situation like that to happen for immediate change to happen. Immediate change. It should not take this long. There's been a public outcry for stricter gun laws, which needs to happen, and also more mental health and emotional programs in our education schools, and more mental health awareness. Like literally, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We need to be aware of our programs. I did a thing. I asked my friends, I was like, hey, are you guys aware that we actually had mental health programs in our school? None of them said that they were aware. And that is a problem. Why is no one aware of the mental health resources and solutions to help you talk about what's going on at home or your trauma? You got to really sit and ask yourself those questions, like, why is that? Why are we not aware of this? And that, again, it goes back to my question, my essential question that I brought up in the beginning of this topic. When you look at it as a collective, you look at it as a society-wise, what do we view as successful and important? If there's a money issue, obviously that'll get solved real quick, because that's what our leaders, that's what they want, that's what they view as successful. But when it comes to emotional programs, when it comes to helping the common good, that gets put in the back burner, and and you have to work hundreds of times harder to get things changed. Whereas if something were to happen to affect the political leaders, immediate change. That's all I'm saying. You got to really ask yourself these questions, because it's important. My talk, obviously, I talk a lot about mental health. This is a part of it. Why is there so many school shootings? Why is there so many public problems? Why is there still racial injustice in a society where we should view everyone as equal? Like I literally just described the 7 universal feelings. We all have these feelings, regardless of what race, what culture, wherever you come from. These are all 7 universal feelings that we all have experienced throughout moments of our lifetime. So why is it that we have a lot of things in common, yet we're not viewed as equal? That shows you, again, just what society views as important, as successful, and it's deep-rooted ugliness. It really is. It's very ugly, and it's sad, because again, all those kids, man, that's the future. 19 of them. It's very sad. So I've been taking a couple days to reflect, because I wanted to do a wisdom and YouTube talk on Wednesday, but then all the news broke out, and I was like, yeah, I got to give myself some time to really process, find my resources, and when I have this conversation, I want to be able to open it up for everybody to share how they feel, and because it's important, we have to acknowledge what's going on in our society today. It has to be acknowledged, because if it doesn't go, then it goes unnoticed. But yeah, I'm gonna open up the conversation. I know I've been talking for a while now. So whether you're on YouTube, whether you're listening on social media, or you're listening on Wisdom app, I'm gonna open the conversation for you guys to listen. I know I talked about a lot. It definitely was a lot. I had to get everything that was out. I really wanted to drive all my points on. But if you guys want to contribute, whether that is based off of society, whether that is based off of the 7 universal feelings, I'm also going to talk about Gemini being the Gemini Mercury in retrograde. So I'm going to talk about that as well. But I just wanted to open the conversation for anybody else if you guys want to contribute to the conversation. All right, and let me just pull up as I'm giving you guys a chance to do that. I am going to pull up the statistics of how many public shootings there were in the United States. All right, here it is from 2009. Yes, from 2009 to 2022. Damn. So this is from 2009 to 2022. So that is 10 years was 2019. Then add 3. Come on, Josh, do math. 13 years. In 13 years, there has been 274 mass shootings in the United States, resulting in 1,500 people getting shot. And my website is everytownresource.org/mass shootings in America. 1,500 people have been shot and killed. Almost 1,000 people have been shot and wounded in the United States. So we're going to name all, well, I'm not going to name all of them, but the leading state, Texas with 30. Texas and California each with 30. Florida, 17. Yeah, so the only states that have not yet, you have Hawaii, Iowa, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. So far, yeah. Wow, there was one in Delaware. It's crazy. It was in Wilmington. Okay, making sure. Yep. But yeah, so that's my point. There has been a huge number, way too many. And as more people are tuning in, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the conversation. There's just been too many. Again, deep-rooted issues here in our society. What do we view as successful? What does our political leaders view as successful and important? And it's a trickling effect. But my solution, I know I mentioned a little bit earlier because I know more people are coming in. My solution is an education reform. There needs to be a curriculum focusing on teaching young children, giving them like a lifestyle class where they are learning about their emotional health, where it's led by school psychologist or led by a mental health professional that is teaching them about emotions and talking about, hey, like, how are you feeling at home? What's going on in the house? So that way we are providing a platform for our kids to talk about what they are feeling emotionally and how are they able to cope, because it's important. It's really important at the end of the day to do that. If our education system can give us tests after every year based off of who's great in math or who's great in English, then we should be able to add and implement more lifestyle and emotional well-being classes in our education curriculum. It's a must. It has to happen. So that way we're aware of our programs and our resources. We're learning about cognitive behavioral therapy. We're learning about crystal healing. There's so many things. There's emotional freedom technique or tapping. That's a technique. I actually interviewed a couple people on my podcast about it, where there's specific parts of your body where if you've experienced trauma, you can use tapping to help you realize that trauma and help cope with your trauma. It's actually really cool. I'm learning more about it every day. There's a lot of different types of therapy. There's exposure therapy. There's obviously like astrology can help you understand yourself. Like there's a lot of mental health resources that are available, but we're not aware of them. And obviously insurance, and when it comes to funding, is also another issue as well. Again, these need to be programs that are accessible for us to go to and to learn. Because if we don't know this, if we don't work on ourselves again, the ugliness will come out, and it comes out in a lot of other forms depending on the person. So I just wanted to highlight that. And for everyone just tuning in, I talked a lot. I went on like a 30-minute. I did a podcast on itself about the tragedy that happened this week. It was so sad, and the tragedy that happened 2 weeks ago. So it's sad at the end of the day. It's very hard, and I feel bad for all those children, families, everyone. It's horrible. It's gross. But yes, we're going to transition. We're going to talk a little bit about Gemini Mercury Retrograde. I know I mentioned a little bit of it last week, but it began on May 10th. And I just want to know like how it's going to affect each of your signs, because Mercury in retrograde, for people that do not know, so Mercury is the planet of communication. So throughout the year, there's different types of retrogrades. I know there's like Venus in retrograde, there's Mercury in retrograde. I'm going to pull up all of the retrogrades. That way I can give you guys a better understanding. So these are all of so each planet throughout time goes through a retrograde. So there's like Mars in retrograde, there's Venus in retrograde, because there's all like pretty much it's just like each planet goes through like a period where things are shaky, things are cloudy. It's just like life in general. Like we go through highs and lows in life, and each planet, it might whatever planet it is that is in retrograde, it can be hard for you during this time period to communicate or to like your relationships. You might have some problems, or within yourself, you might have some problems. You might be feeling more emotional than usual. Like these are all reasons why. And retrogrades are part of the reason why sometimes things shift so quickly. So for this year in 2022, Mercury retrograde. So Messenger Mercury is the ruler of information, communication, and our intellectual processes. It's the closest planet to the sun. Mercury orbits through each zodiac sign for approximately 3 weeks. These cycles shape our cultural interests. From the topics we're buzzing about to the ways we communicate, whatever sign Mercury is occupying plays a role. Each year, Mercury turns retrograde for 3 cycles, appearing to travel backward through the zodiac. During the reverse commutes, it lingers in 1 or 2 signs for approximately 10 weeks. While the scrambled signals can be agonizing, we have a chance to dive into deeper disclosure. People from the past may reappear, like old friends, estranged relatives, exes with unfinished business. In 2022, this year, there are 3 Mercury retrograde phases that will split their time between expressive air signs and grounded earth signs, demanding that we clean up our communication and pay better attention to the structure of our lives. So Mercury in retrograde for the first one, sorry guys, one's already happened. January 14th to February 3rd, the Mercury retrograde was in Aquarius or Capricorn. So it was in Aquarius from 2:10 a.m. January 14th to January 25th. And then it was in Capricorn from January 25th to February 3rd. The second one, which we are currently in, is May 10th to June 3rd. So during my birthday, Mercury was in retrograde. Mercury retrograde is in Gemini/Taurus. So in Gemini, it started 7:47 a.m. May 10th. And then in Taurus, now the Mercury is in Taurus. That's probably why I've been acting so crazy lately, because my Mercury is in Taurus and I'm a Taurus. Taurus, for Tauruses, it started at 9:15 p.m. and this is according to astrostyle.com. It started, Mercury retrograde in Taurus started 9:15 May 22nd. And then there's going to be 2 more. So September 9th to October 2nd will be the 3rd Mercury in retrograde, and that'll be in Libra/Virgo. So it's important for you guys. So that's what's going to happen. So to highlight the other retrogrades, there's Venus in retrograde that happened late December this past year and early January, it was in Capricorn. Mars retrograde will happen in October to December this year. And it's going to be, and it's going to be in Gemini. So it's going to start from October 30th, 2022 this year to January 12th, 2023, and that'll be in Gemini. There's a Jupiter one in the summer, so get ready, guys. July 28th to November 23rd, Jupiter retrograde will be in Aries, then Pisces. So these are all things that will happen over the course of this year, so it's important to highlight it. So when it comes to Mercury in retrograde, how does this affect your sun/rising sign? So your sun sign is who you are to your core, and this website is thecosmopolitan.com. So this is how it affects each sign. So because retrograde is Gemini/Taurus, Gemini is the sign of communication. So your thoughts aren't just translating into words. So like during this time period, like this is a really great time period for your thoughts. Not only just translating into words, but however you want to describe what you're thinking and the words that you have, it's very important. So it is a very important time. So during this retrograde, crazy situations could happen. You could run back to your ex. You could be reconnecting with your ex. You can have a long distance family member that you might not like is slowly coming back into the picture. This is a time period where, this is a time period where craziness happens and you need to learn more about your communication and learn about what you're feeling inside when it comes to yourself. Because again, like I said, Mercury in retrograde, Mercury is the planet of communication. So how do we communicate? Humans are social creatures. We all communicate through each other. So it's important. So this is why during these retrograde periods, crazy situations with people tend to happen because we're social creatures and we love to communicate. But no matter your sign, again, you're going to be running into X's. So how this affects, so during this time, this is just a brief summary again. Before I really get into how it affects each sign, I want you guys to also remember that Mercury in retrograde is a very critical time period. But again, like I said, I'm like losing track of thoughts real quick. Mercury in retrograde, there it is again. So pretty much like if I say like, oh, Aries, and if you're an Aries, like, oh, how this is going to affect me, there's different parts to every chart. So just because your sun sign might be in Aries, your moon and other planets could be indifferent. So you might vibe to some of this, some things you might not. But I just want to acknowledge that this is not the clear-cut solution, and this is what exactly how you're feeling for each sign. I just want to disclose that because it's important. So for Aries during Mercury in retrograde, word of advice, watch your tone. Aries always live in the moment. You never hold back from expressing your thoughts and feelings, but right now it's coming off as a little bit too much to the people you love. So think before you speak during this Mercury in retrograde for you Aries. You'll save yourself tons of unnecessary drama. For Tauruses, during this Mercury retrograde, peep your bank account. Your money management skills have this is funny because I'm not gonna lie, I've not been as motivated to work lately. I've been in a mood to create more. But it says peep your bank account. Your money management skills have been a bit lacking lately. If you don't switch up your spending habits, it could really catch you up during this retrograde. So take a look at your budget, cut out on any unnecessary expenses, and I'll be fine. So during this time period, I need to be a little bit smarter when it comes to money. That's funny. Geminis, this is your zodiac sign. So you're the biggest checkbox. So during this time, you're missing out on a lot of, during this time for Geminis, you need to be focused more on listening during this period. You're missing out on a lot of wonderful conversations and amazing connections. So Geminis, if you're able to just shut your mouth during this time and listen, you'll make your relationships start thriving again. So Geminis, during this Mercury retrograde, listening is the word of advice. For Cancers, if you are a Cancer, I know Cancer season is next after Gemini season. Exes. This is the period where exes are coming your way. And not just ex-lovers, ex-friends, ex-coworkers, all sorts of people you've never really got closure with. They're popping up right now. So your job right now is to address them all and figure out how to move on. So good luck, Cancer. So a lot of people are coming your way. You need to be able to figure out how to cut them off. Leos, some of your pals are acting shady now. And you might even discover that there are a few frenemies in your squad. Instead of talking smack, be an adult and try to talk things out. You might have to cut a friend off or two, but that just means you'll have room in your life for actual real friends. So for Leos, during this Mercury in retrograde, it is a perfect time for you guys to really address who is in your circle and what is and are they real? Are they there for you? Are they a part of what you want to be a part of? Good particular point. Virgos, how Mercury in retrograde in Gemini is going to affect you guys this month. All eyes are on you right now because, again, Virgo, similar to Gemini, Virgos are ruled by the planet of Mercury, planet of communication. So every success and shortfall, especially at work, is getting tons of attention. So that means it's important for you to do your absolute best. So this is a time period where if you're in school and you're a Virgo, or whatever you're doing at your job, you're getting a lot of attention right now. So you need to really be important and really be focused on this time period, because you're not getting any immediate rewards. But this is a time period for you to really just build those healthy habits and to really do what's really important for you, because in the long run, it's going to pay off. Because like I mentioned, Mercury in retrograde will be in Libra/Virgo later in the year. So this is a great opportunity for you Virgos to really focus on work and getting yourself right. Libras, during Mercury in retrograde, if you have any travel plans during retrograde, please double, triple, quadruple check everything on your agenda. You're especially susceptible to mishaps when it comes to transportation. So like Uber canceling, car breaking down. So this is a time period, Mercury in retrograde, for Libras to really focus in on every little detail. Get organized and stay organized. Give yourself plenty of wiggle room to deal with any mishaps. Prepare for Libras. Scorpios, this retrograde is making you think about the give and take in your relationships. So similar to Cancers and Libras. You're also being figured out what your wants versus your needs are. And you're being given loads of time to sort it all out. So are you receiving shame about love and attention that you give out? You need to balance out your relationships and negotiate with your partner. So these are all things like you're realizing more about yourself. What do you need in this relationship? What do you need what do you need here in the people that you surround yourself with? So Scorpio is a good time to reflect. Sagittarius, your boo was acting a little different. You're speculating what's up, and you might jump to conclusions about it. For Sagittarius, if you're not in a relationship, and if you are in a relationship, whoever you're around with during this time period, you need to be able to talk about it. If they're distant, ask why. If they're argumentative, ask why. Work with them to find a solution. So during this Mercury in retrograde for Sagittarius, it's important to assess your loved ones and ask what is going on with them. So if you have a distant relative or friend, what's going on? If people have been argumentative with you, what's going on? And you got to find a solution to that. I know I have Sag energy in my chart. So I've had a lot of conversations with family lately. I don't know what it is. I know obviously Mercury in retrograde, but I've been having this added motivation to find solutions to my family's generational problems. Capricorns, life at work is killing you. All of the work stacked on your desk that you never finished, well, it's due right now. To put it bluntly, you need to get back on top of things and reorganize all your crap. So for Capricorns, this is during Mercury in retrograde. It is important for you guys to change all of those unhealthy habits that you guys have been having. Whether that's not eating right, sleeping right, this is a time period for you guys to really acknowledge what the heck you're doing wrong and reorganize everything and get on top of it. Not a bad thing. It happens to the best of us, but this is a time period where it happens more often. And I also have Capricorn in my chart, and I'm realizing I need to sleep a little bit better. I've not had the best of sleep. So that's been a very unhealthy habit that I have developed. So, I mean, this website's pretty spot on. Aquarius, this retrograde isn't hitting you too hard, Aquarius. Right now you're feeling a little shy about expressing yourself, and you're not really feeling too confident. Sorry, guys. So it is a time period, if you're an Aquarius, to reconnect with your inner child and do something fun for yourself. Whether that is, like, this reminds you of childhood. So whether that's going to the park, connecting with nature, going, I don't know, do something that's reconnecting your inner child. So playing video games or doing something that you enjoy doing as a child. This is a time period for you guys to really do that. Get creative, have some fun, and enjoy it. Pisces, Mercury in retrograde is signaling that that life at home really needs a reboot. So if you have any Pisces in your chart, this is your home there needs to be some rearranging. So whether that's family or roommates, they're acting up, appliances are breaking down, you're easily feeling overwhelmed. This is important for you to talk about your problems and fix whatever is messed up in your home, and you'll be more at peace. So for people that are just tuning in, because I know the numbers are rising now, welcome to the conversation. I just talked about, according to the Cosmopolitan, because Mercury is in retrograde and it's in Gemini. I just gave a brief little rundown of how the Mercury in retrograde will impact each of your signs. So yeah, I just went through all that, and if you guys just missed it, I'm sorry, guys, but yeah, so I just went all that. And for everyone that's just tuning in again, I talked about the 7 universal feelings, how we all feel them. Think about moments where you have felt anger, disgust, enjoyment, fear, sadness. If you're interested in getting your own chart done, I can do live guests to come on, and if you want to join the conversation. And I also talked about the school shooting that happened in Texas, and our deep-rooted problems in society. But before I end the recording here because this is the 50th episode for everybody tuning in. I've gotten a lot of people on Wisdom now, so shout out to everybody coming on. I'm about to end the recording for my podcast, and I'll continue to do this live chat. So if everyone does come on, you won't be on the recording for the podcast. And again, you can tune in to all that on Your Spiritual Best Friend. Just search that, and Apple Podcast, Spotify, it all pops up. But I'm about to end the audio recording, so I'm going to end that now. Cool. Because I was at an hour and 10 minutes. I was like, damn, like that's a long podcast. But yeah, so welcome everybody into the chat. So I just ended my audio recording. Still live on YouTube. I'm probably going to end that soon. But welcome everybody. So this is an opportunity here. I'm open for any conversation. Anyone that wants to come on and join as a guest. I know I talked about a lot of stuff today. I talked a lot about our deep-rooted issues in today's society. I also talked about the 7 universal signs. I've also talked about how Mercury in retrograde, it affects everyone today. So it's been a lot of great conversation. But if you guys are wanting to contribute to the conversation, now is a good time to do that, because it's important at the end of the day that we have conversations, whatever's bothering you, whatever's going through your mind, so that way we're able to be productive and we move forward.